here's Chris Maher, host of FFM93 Live.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 7 of FFM93 Live. Good amount to talk about today. I have Bill Meltzer joining me in just a couple of minutes here. Also have a interview with CATES that I recently just did around noon Eastern. So we just finished that, finished up the whole editing process, and now that's ready to go and ready for everybody's ears to listen to. So obviously the last couple of weeks, obviously last week and the pretty much the whole week from development camp and free agency on was pretty hectic. There's a lot of different things from let's obviously going back to the whole Johnny Gaudreau situation and everything that was going on there. And then you also have the situation where the Flyers just only signed Delorier and Braun. And I'll be talking about that with Bill in a little bit to kind of break that down a little bit more. But as for, the last handful of weeks, Flyers haven't really done much. There's been, the NHL has been kind of quiet. It's been kind of hard to move out money like that. Obviously, we've seen, obviously the whole Matthew Tkachuk thing has been ramping up each day. But as of today, I look at the Flyers right now as essentially them being done. I don't necessarily look at it as a how would I say a roster that really, it's kind of hard for the Flyers to really do much with everything that's been going on right now. There isn't much for them to really be doing. But again, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for the past handful of weeks with all the support that I've been getting from actually the video that I made about the whole Gaudreau situation. That kind of blew up a little bit, so I do appreciate that, and I've been getting more followers on Twitter and everything, so I really do appreciate all the support there. But let's bring in Bill now. Obviously, everybody knows Bill Meltzer from NHL.com, PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, but let's bring him in now. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Chris. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Just kind of, so look, it's been a handful recently, right? There's been a lot that's been going on recently with the Flyers from free agency and the last handful of weeks. But outside of that, Bill, how are you doing? I believe you're back in Texas, right?
I am, yes.
Yeah. But obviously, getting back to the Flyers and things like that, how did you kind of view the whole Gaudreau thing? I know we talked to development camp a little bit on how everything kind of unfolded, but outside of that, and I guess kind of giving it a week, essentially for what it's been right now, how would you kind of say that you feel right now?
Well, going into the off season, when I looked at the roster composition and all the question marks that there are, I had doubts that I thought that Johnny Gaudreau was necessarily the right fit for all the team needed. I've certainly need an upgrade in skill, but this also ties in with I didn't know where the cap money was going to come from.
Right.
And I had a suspicion that it was going to be harder to move James Van Riemsdyk's contract than some people thought. Right. And the Flyers had the buyout of Oscar Lindblom, which I was opposed to, truthfully.
Right. Yeah, I know we talked about that. Yeah.
And for the, and I understand that the Flyers ended up in the first year of this with a slight cap benefit, about a $330,000 cap credit.
Right.
Next year they'll have a $600,000, cap hit on dead space. I felt that when the Flyers re-sign Oscar to the 3-year extension in the first place, last summer, which is 1 year into the deal, Chuck Fletcher had said, well, we knew realistically it was going to take at least a year for Oscar to get close to where he was before.
Right.
So you go in knowing there's going to be a down year on the other side of it, just because of how much weight he lost, how much muscle mass he lost. I mean, he not only went through chemo, he went through rib removal too.
Right.
So, that takes a long, long time to come back from. Unfortunately, instead of taking 12 months to bounce back, it took him 18 months to bounce back. But then you can look at his season last year, and on the day the Flyers fired Helene Vigneault, Oscar had dressed in every game during the season, but he hadn't scored a goal and he only had 1 assist.
Right.
Which, I mean, that obviously that's not gonna cut in any league, and especially given his salary. But if you look from the time of the coaching change to the end of the year, only had 12 goals and 25 points the rest of the year. And that's a lot closer to what you'd expect from him over a full season. So the Flyers had the pain of the 18 months it took him to get close to where he was, and none of the rewards. And he still has a year to go. And it looks like, and I don't know if he's going to get 100% of the way back, but it was worth to me riding out that contract, because you saw enough from him over the rest of the season that to me it behooved to ride it out, see if he bounces back this year. He'd be due a $4 million qualifying offer for next year. So if he doesn't bounce back, well, then you don't qualify him, set him loose as a free agent, an unrestricted free agent, and there's no obligation at that point.
Right.
There's no dead cap space in a year. With the Flyers having this year, and to use Chuck's own words, being a stabilizing year, then I would have rather gone into 23, 24 with a little more cap space.
Yeah.
But when the Flyers bought out Lindblom, you're thinking, okay, well, maybe they really are making that big push for Gaudreau, and maybe there's another way of doing it besides trading Van Riemsdyk.
Right.
Unfortunately, when you're trading from a position of weakness, where you don't have a lot of guys who are coming off of strong years that would increase their tradability and their market value.
Yeah.
And B, when you're already capped out, then you're dealing with a real position of weakness. And the Flyers may have been willing to deal the Florida 2024 pick they got for Claude Giroux.
Yeah,
but the ask was their own 2023, and that's which figures to be a lottery pick in a very, very deep draft. Even if you don't get the number 1 pick with Bedard, there's still some really high quality talent in this coming draft. Even if you're drafted anywhere in the top 10, this is an outstanding top 10. Yeah. And maybe a couple of guys drop off, some guys come up a little bit, but it's one of the deeper drafts has been in quite a while, and really, really good at the top end
since 2015.
Right. So the thought to me of trading anything for 1 year of cap relief on JVR, even if it was the 2024 Florida.
Right. I was just going to say that.
That's just bad asset management, right?
Yeah.
And the 2023, that's a non-starter. You can't do that.
No,
so
for sure.
When they couldn't do that, and they were still, even with the Lindblom buyout, still a good $5-6 million short on being able to bid on Gaudreau, and it just wasn't the money. It just couldn't happen.
Right.
And I think the part that where you can criticize maybe is there were 7 months from the time that AV was fired to plan for this. So sometimes you can move something in the deadline or whatever. Maybe in the earlier in the off season, you could have worked something out where you're moving some money out.
Right.
There are ways of being creative.
No, for sure.
And if you really have your heart set on Gaudreau, there were ways even that could be done. And I gave an example in a blog I did on the day of the first day of free agency. If you look like what Carolina did, with Jesperi Kotkaniemi, well, the Flyers could have done the same thing except in reverse. So year one, they could have signed him to 2 separate contracts, the same way that Carolina did with Kotkaniemi. It could have been reverse, right? Year 1 would have been a cap hit the Flyers could afford, and then year 2 could have been, a big increase, like full market value.
Right.
So that I'm sorry, my family's getting in the car here. But at any rate, so they could have done something like that, stack the 2 deals. But the other part of it too is that Goudreau's going to be 29 years old before the start of the season.
Right.
And you tie yourself up with a player for 7-8 years, you're taking him in his late 30s.
Yeah.
So I just didn't really see, I just didn't see a long-term fit there. I just didn't think. And then you also look at how small the Flyers are on the wings.
Right.
I mean, yes, you look at skill above all. Well, at the end of the day, nothing matters like skill. But when you look at the overall fit, I just didn't think it was totally the right situation.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, and I feel like, again, kind of what you had touched on was, them having so much time. And I think that's where the fan base was kind of, because essentially, like, it seemed like everybody was kind of duped, right? From the media and from, I mean, how many years in a row did we hear that Gaudreau wanted to come here? I mean, he would even be signed long-term in Calgary, and then we had heard rumors of it. And that was always kind of the thing of, does he want to go to Philadelphia, and that whole thing, and that's kind of where it was like, this is the opportunity to get him. But I understand that, and I think it's hard. But one thing for me that's very hard for me to look at for them going into this year is they don't really have anybody right now that on paper at least replace Giroux's points and replace Giroux's type play. They really don't have any of that. Unfortunately, with how it ended, I kind of look at the roster differently, because I look at them right now as they're done, because I really don't see them doing anything else. If it's that hard to move money, and they weren't able to do it trade deadline day, and they weren't able to do it free agency day or around that time, I really don't see them being able to do it. I mean, unless obviously, it's July 22nd until we have a lot of time till October, but I kind of look at them as they're done. But, I think the hardest thing for going into this year is you're banking on a lot, and it starts in, I mean, right away. If you're just looking at the first line, Couturier and Hayes are coming off of injuries. You have a lot of guys coming, that are hurt, coming off injuries. You have to hope that your defense at least, plays better, and you have to hope that D'Angelo fits in like how, he worked with Slavin in Carolina. Then you're essentially banking on a lot of younger players to play better, guys like Frost, guys like CATES, guys like Tippett. And then, you didn't have any money essentially at the end to sign Martin Jones. So now you're banking on Felix Sandstrom, who played a sample size 5 games last year, or Tony Grosenick, which is going to be essentially a battle at camp to make that spot. And obviously, don't get me wrong, Grosenick has pretty good numbers, but all at the, pretty much at the American League level. Doesn't have much NHL experience, only 4 games through, I believe, like 7 years. So it's a lot to bank on. I think that's where the frustration comes in. But outside of that, the Flyers, they use the Lindblom buyout, and they get Braun. They bring back Braun, who I'm perfectly fine with. I had no issue with the Braun signing. I think Braun's a steady defenseman who can, essentially, we already know he can play pretty much wherever in the lineup if needed. I think that's perfectly fine. Delorier, I'm fine with. I think they needed a certain player like that. I felt like personally he was going to get a pay raise from the way that the whole situation in Anaheim was handled with the Trevor Zegras thing, and they kind of lost him. It seemed like he was a really valuable piece of their team, and he was kind of due for a raise. But outside of that, they get Delorier, and they sign him to a 4-year deal with 2 years of modified no trade, which I don't really like the term, but that's just, I guess, how it is. I kind of view that as the Ryan Reeves to the Rangers type thing. But outside of that, is there anything that, now look, obviously there's positives, and is there anything but is there anything that you're looking for going into this season? Obviously you have a lot of younger players, but there's definitely a lot of questions going around the roster right now.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with all the major question marks. Goalie wise, I would actually say that Grosenick probably has the inside track to start. It'll be a competition in camp, only because he's a much more experienced goalie. Sandstrom's younger. He's also had some difficulty staying healthy over the years. So, I think because Grosenick has won the AHL equivalent of the Vezina, the Baz Bastien Award. That he does have that on his resume, coming off a year where he had the best goals against and save percentage in the AHL. So he's a very good AHL goalie. But I mean, as you could see, like with a guy like Michael Layton, who's an AHL Hall of Famer, probably one of the best AHL goalies ever. The NHL goalie was marginal. right? That's the difference between an NHL goalie and an AHL goalie. But I mean, he is the more established guy. But it's a huge risk. I mean, the Flyers are one injury to Carter Hart away from Grosenick and Sandstrom being your duo. Now that's pretty scary.
Yeah,
You know,
might be 2018-19 all over again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that was the end of Ron Hextall's regime. I mean, that to me, not to backtrack too much, but that to me was what the number one thing that cost him the GM job.
Yeah,
because the Flyers were coming off a big year in 18. They were a 98-point team. They had just taken the Penguins almost to a game 7. Remember, game 6 was tied going into the third period.
Yeah.
So the things were kind of looking up for the team. That's why they added JVR, and they thought they might be able to take those next steps, be a 100+ point team, and get a little bit of playoff traction. Then the biggest mistake he made that offseason was to count on Michael Neuvirth and Brian Elliott to be healthy, and neither goalie was healthy. I mean, no, really, Neuvirth was really never healthy, and Elliott at that time wasn't healthy. And then when both goalies proved to be injured, then there was that that parade of goalies. They brought in Pickard, and that didn't work out at all. It ended up, it ultimately ended up after Hexy was let go, with Carter Hart being brought up sooner than they had originally planned to do that.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean that's a very discomforting scenario to have, be an injury, but it just is what the cap is.
Right.
I would say the number one thing that the Flyers could be criticized for is not managing expectations very well. I think when starting out with the whole aggressive retool and blank check, incidentally didn't really necessarily mean for players, because the Flyers always spend to the cap anyway.
Right.
But they were really talking about the infrastructure within the team, development staff, scouting, those kind of things, right? That's what they've been specifically. But just to finish up, so you go into the offseason, you buy out Lindblom, you have whatever, the expectations are sky high, especially with all the indications that Gujar wanted to come home and sign here. And then you come away with Delorier and Braun. Nothing against either player or the role that they play, but people's expectations were set a lot higher than that, and that's why the reaction is what it is.
Right, for sure. And I think the other thing is like they did spend money. I think they just didn't spend it in the way that we thought. Like they extended Ristolainen, they get D'Angelo, they buy out Lindblom, and they sign Delorier and Braun. I mean, right there, that's like what I think off the top of my head, that's probably close to 13 million. So right then and there, you're kind of thinking that it's going to be a little bit different. And, I think everybody expected GVR to be gone. And unfortunately, he's probably going to be the guy that everybody points the finger at this year when things go wrong, because, he was supposed to be the guy that was, quote unquote, to be out for Gaudreau. But, outside of that, just looking at the Metro alone, right? Obviously, Columbus gets better. He signs in, Johnny Gaudreau ends up signing in Columbus. New Jersey gets Andre Palat. Capitals, they get Kemper. They also get Dylan Strome. The Penguins essentially bring the entire band back together, and the Rangers got a little bit better as well with Trocheck. And then obviously Carolina gets Brent Burns. Outside of that, it didn't really, I mean, look, I don't look at it as the Flyers got, I don't think that they got worse, but I can't really say that they got that much better. I think they got a little bit better on the defensive side, probably lacked a little bit in the backup goaltending, but outside of that, I think it's pretty easy to say that they're probably the worst team in the Metro right now, on paper at least.
Yeah, if you look on paper, but I guess the comfort of that is things almost never go as they look on paper for the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean there are avenues where the Flyers can get better, and I mean to at least be a bubble team,
right?
And I know some people, that's the last thing they want to hear is a bubble team because of the draft lottery for next season, but.
Right.
Be that as it may, there are avenues for the team to get better, and not solely because John Tortorella is the coach, but certainly that first year buy-in will definitely help. There should be a first year bump in that regard.
Sure.
I think that it's very important that at least a couple of the young players step up this year. I don't think you're going to have a situation where everybody steps up. Where
Yeah, because
Frost
that's
breaks
so
through,
unlikely.
and Tippett and York and and Lazinski is healthy and he breaks into the top 9 and
Yeah,
et
right.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right.
Mhm.
Hopefully some of those things happen at least. And then you have a deeper team. And then a team that plays the right way and so on and so forth. The Flyers have had nothing but bad news in the offseason injury wise too, because
Yeah,
Bill Farabee is going to be out at least, and seems like at least until November at some point.
yeah,
And I mean he's they don't have a replacement for him, not a true replacement right now. And and then Bobby Brink was going to be in the mix at least for a spot, and and the last I heard was he was being evaluated for hip surgery, and
yeah.
hip surgery
He's
keep him
most
out. No,
likely
it
out
doesn't
for the
depend on
year,
the nature
right?
of that. So they unfortunately haven't been able to add any marquee names. Closest being D'Angelo in defense, and D'Angelo certainly is an offensive upgrade. The
Hmm.
question is his own end of the ice. Um, so and also it's worth monitoring how the chemistry between Provorov and D'Angelo goes.
Yeah,
Two pretty intense guys. So that all that remains to be seen. I think that but I think a healthy Couturier certainly helps a lot.
yeah,
And people forget because of how off the rails last season went. The Flyers did start out 6-2-2, and in those first 10 games, Couturier had 12 points.
yeah,
So it was like you look at a guy who was done by any means. He looked like a guy still in his prime,
yeah.
and then he got hurt, and he had a back injury, and
And he most
really,
likely was
yeah,
playing
he
hurt
tried to play
when he
through.
was
He tried to
playing.
play through it, right?
Yeah,
But he couldn't, and then he had the surgery, and they shut him down for the year.
yeah,
But if Couturier is back close to his normal self, that's a huge upgrade. And
yeah.
then last year, Kevin Hayes, they didn't really have him until the second half of the season. And
Mhm.
it wasn't until March on where he was even feeling close to himself. So a healthy Hayes, a healthy Couturier right there is a big boost.
Yeah,
You had D'Angelo helping out the power play, and some young players coming through. And then I think then I don't think you're competing for to be one of the worst teams. I don't think it's a playoff team just because of how tough the division is,
right,
and just how much has to go right. And
right,
we talked
exactly.
about the goaltending question marks, but it's not necessarily going to be it's not going to be one of the worst teams of all time by any
Mhm.
stretch of the imagination either, unless there's another year like last year where everybody gets hurt and
Yeah,
everybody has a down year and just all of
yeah,
the stuff that went wrong. So and they're kind of a little bit stuck in the middle here right now. But it's I don't think it's as hopeless as people make it out to be either. But some things have to work out. That's all.
no, for sure. I mean, and that's kind of how I look at it too. Like, I don't think they don't have any talent. Like, I've never thought of that. Like, I think that they have good players on this team that can compete. And going back to Couturier too, like I mean, when healthy, he's one of the best two-way centers in the game. I mean, let's not forget he won the Selke a couple years ago. But outside of that, like I kind of look at this as a team that I really hope that they're better than last year because it'd be very hard to be worse, unless, like you said, they're completely injured again and just everything goes wrong. But I think the one area that I think everybody knows that has to get better is power play. And the power play is the to me it's one of the biggest question marks going into next year, because I think the other thing is too, and obviously this, but you have to wait and see how they all play under the new system. I mean, it's going to be a new system. It's going to be a whole different thing. I'm not as worried about the penalty kill because I didn't really think the penalty kill was that bad last season, even though it gave up goals at times. It wasn't as bad as it was the year before. I saw at least somewhat of an improvement there, but I think they can get back on track to having a good enough power play like it was in 1920. I believe it was like 7th in the league. It was in the top 10. It was pretty good for majority of the year. I think they could get back to that. Maybe not, this upcoming season, but maybe the following year. But outside of that, how do you kind of view the power play right now?
Well, that's hopefully D'Angelo comes in and he helps.
Yeah.
They're going to need they're going to need guys to step up. Simple as that. You know, they
Yeah.
last year it got to a point where by the latter part of the season, it didn't even make sense saying you had a first unit and a second unit, because it was just like throw stuff at a wall and hope you found something that would stick.
Right.
You know, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, you know, they have a new coach in Rocky Thompson. We'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's. I mean, the thing was last season, you know, the Flyers didn't have 2 power play goals in the final game of the season. It would have been the worst power play season in franchise history.
Yeah.
The worst one being their inaugural 67-68 season. So this would have been the worst, and it's actually is the worst since the time the NHL officially started keeping power play stats as an official statistic. So, it's there's nowhere to go but up.
Right.
You know, hopefully a guy like Frost, a guy like Tippett, you know, having Couturier back, same group of guys, right? Konechny, those same guys who've either been underachieving or they're waiting to break through. Those are the guys who are going to have to do it. You know, and then they said, you know, on power play 1, you'll have D'Angelo. On power play 2, it'll be York or it'll be Provorov, and that's a you know, competition waiting to take shape. So we'll see how that goes. Just real quick on penalty kill, it was almost like 2 seasons in one. Because of the Christmas break, the Flyers were top 10 in the league in penalty kill. They were 82%. And then the rest of the year was a disaster. The rest of the year, they were 68%. And that just sunk them. It just sunk them. So, you know, so which one are they closer to? Hopefully closer to the first, but even the middle is an improvement. So.
No, for sure. And again, like there was such a huge drop off throughout most of the season there as well. Now, again, this is obviously we got to wrap up here in a couple minutes, but one quick question here. This is off the topic, though. This one comes from my dad from the chat. He said, off the topic question for Bill, better wrestling group, DX or the Force Horsemen? Need to know his opinion.
4 Horsemen fan. 4 Horsemen fan, yeah. And particularly, although it wasn't the first incarnation, I would say the group that had Barry Windham was the best collection of 4. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not huge on wrestling, but he sent me a text a little bit ago and he was like, make sure you put that up there. So, but again, Bill, as always, thank you. Always appreciate talking with you. And again, stay safe and
pleasure.
I'll see you soon.
Thanks. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye, Bill. All right, back. Again, that was Bill Meltzer. That was, again, Bill is great to talk to. Always a pleasure to talk with Bill. But just getting to a couple questions here. Ryan Begler, 2023 first round pick is going to be huge. Give Chuck credit for not giving that up. That's fair. I think that's fair. Definitely can give him credit. Because again, that would be horrible. Again, horrible asset management. Like I talked about Solomon Fox. What's up, man? How are you? That was from a while ago. Howard Frank. I think we need to have Brandon Warner. Do you think JVR should play top 6? He could. I don't know if I were to give him top 6 yet, essentially because of everything that has going on with you know the roster and really who's going to play where. I don't know if I would give him top 6 right now, but obviously Torts and the coaching staff will see it differently. I just don't know if I would do it right now. But we are again, like this episode is going to be a little bit shorter. Really not as much to talk about this week, and this is also going to be my last show for a little bit. I'm going on like a hiatus, I guess if you want to call it, for a couple weeks until the season starts up again. Just trying to, you know, get some stuff done for the summer and things like that. And again, I'm not going to be posting like as much as I normally do. I'll still like make videos here and there, like if certain things happen, like for the, you know, the RF days and things like that. Obviously the Flyers already got Frost 1 year, 800,000 and Isaac Ratcliffe signed as well. But you know, outside of that, there hasn't really been much. So I'm just going to be taking a little bit of a break before the season starts. So this will be the last show for a little bit. And then we'll get right back up to it when training camp starts as well. But again, we have the last couple of things here for the show. a couple callers, and then the No CATES interview. So I'm going to play the interview now, and we'll get into a couple callers, and then that'll be it for today. So let's get into the video. All right, so I'm here with Flyers forward Noah Cates. Noah, how you doing? Again, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. How is your summer going? Where are you, and how have your workouts been so far?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been good back home in Stillwater, Minnesota, and just kind of training and hanging out on the lake or river around here with some family and friends. So it's been good, but kind of during the weeks I've been going to the University of Minnesota and their rink at Mariucci. It's a really good facility, and working out with some other pros and my brother Jackson. So it's been nice to work out and starting to skate a little bit, kind of on the ice here, and also the Beauty League, a little 4-on-4 tournament they do in Minnesota. So that's been a lot of fun as well.
Nice, that's cool. Kind of going off of last season, obviously you had a pretty good end of the year. Obviously, you played a good amount of games with the Flyers, scored some big goals. If they're, I guess I should start out with your first NHL goal against Columbus. Are you able to describe that kind of moment into words, or is that still something you can't really put anything on?
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously a lot of work went into, playing college hockey and playing in the NHL, and,
right.
To be rewarded and score my first goal was obviously super special. Kind of wish some family and friends were there, but, it was obviously super special and got a lot of, phone calls and whatnot after the game. So it was definitely super cool. And, a moment I'll never forget, but, kind of the whole end of the year and, kind of having the lifestyle for a month in the NHL was definitely super special as well.
Oh, for sure. How, and kind of going off that too, how did you feel kind of, about your game towards the end of the year? It seemed like you were pretty comfortable. You were playing on that line with Frost and Tippett. You guys were to me, it seemed like you guys were gelling well, playing really well, had some good chemistry. But kind of for you, how did you feel about your game towards the end of the year?
Yeah, I thought I got more comfortable, kind of needed to get 3, 4, 5 games in and, feel more comfortable with the systems and the guys. And kind of like you mentioned with some younger guys there, definitely felt really comfortable with them, kind of what I could say to them. And, our communication just felt a little more natural, all being a little younger and, in the same boat a little bit. So really like playing with those guys. And kind of like I said, the communication with some younger guys and even the older guys as well, they were good leaders and whatnot. So the communication was good and, just felt comfortable with, the older guys and especially the younger guys as well.
No, for sure. And again, that obviously was translating, onto the ice as well, but kind of outside of last season and kind of getting back into the summer a little bit, was there anything that you yourself that you wanted to maybe work on going into this summer for next season or no?
Yeah, for sure. I think a huge part of, that last month in the NHL was kind of learning what I need to work on. And there's definitely a lot of things, including, speed, size, and strength, and, other little things with the puck and, kind of how to play and how to manage myself, within, a year or within, a week of, back-to-back games or whatnot. So definitely learned a lot about the lifestyle as well as, different things to work on this summer, which, I'm hard at work at, just working on little things with my brother, different things in the weight room as well.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of going back to the Flyers as of right now, obviously Torts is head coach. Have you had a chance to talk with him at all or no?
No, he kind of sent out an email just introducing himself and, kind of explaining what camp was going to be like. So, I feel like we've all heard a lot about him and, know his standards. So,
right.
I'm really looking forward to it. I've had some hard coaches in the past and, I think I do well under that. And, I'm very excited for it.
As for going into this, upcoming camp, obviously, I think it's pretty clear that your goal is to make the team out of camp, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's obviously my goal, but I know a lot of things change at the professional level, and I think a huge thing is not getting too high or too low throughout a season. So definitely learned that from watching my brother last year, kind of make the step to professional hockey. But, that's what I'm working towards right now is, going to training camp and trying to make the team.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you, Noah, for doing this. I appreciate it. And have a good rest of your summer and good luck this year.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. All right. Back. That was Noah Cates. Again, thank you to Noah for joining. Really do appreciate it. But overall, it was fun. Jack, what's up, man? I got your call, and I'm gonna play it in a minute. I will. I'm gonna. I'll text. I'll text Noah for you because I wasn't able to play it on the actual clip. Because I'll explain it to you, but the audio got a little. Well, it wasn't really the audio. It was the timing of it, and I wasn't really able to play the audio from the phone into the way that we were doing it. So I do apologize for that. But Cates is a beauty. Rogue, so to see his game. Yeah, dude, me too. Me too, Paul. I think going up next year, going into next year, I think he's one of the guys that makes a team out of camp. But let's take a couple callers here for the last show for a little bit.
This is Jeffrey from Denver. I hope you have a good show as always. I wanted to let you know that I'm very upset with a lot of the trades that took place. Chuck Fletcher is not doing a good job. The only bright spot that I could see is D'Angelo and bringing back Chris Braun. I'm so glad that I'm going to be following the Senators and Claude Giroux along with the Flyers. And I've also seen on another website that many of the Flyers fans are demonstrating in front of the training facility because they're just so sick and tired of Chuck Fletcher's ineptitude. They really need to get rid of him and get another GM that knows more about hockey because it's really a mess. I did some stuff on the internet research, and I found out that he did the same thing to the Minnesota Wild, and they're having to rebuild slowly because of the mess he left them in. So I'm looking to listen to your comments later today. And as always, I will go on the chat and I'll type in my responses if I feel I need to. I'm sure the show's going to be real fiery this week because of all the mess that Fletcher and the Flyers management have made. Have a good show.
Thank you, Jeffrey, as always. Unfortunately, it was a tough couple weeks. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I know a lot of people kind of feel that way about Chuck and the whole situation. Again, I was just talking about it with Bill, like the whole blank check. They spent money. Unfortunately, it was in a way that we didn't think. And it kind of, I personally felt like I kind of got, it felt like that I got dumped. Like I kind of got broken up with. I think I said this last week too. It sucked. And it was like, oh, all right, we're going to get Gaudreau. We're going to have that guy to, that kind of build the whole team around and, the whole thing, et cetera, et cetera. And then they weren't able to move any money to get him. And they just went out and got Delorier and Braun, and that was it. So, again, they weren't able to do much. But Jack, I'm going to play your question here, and I will text Noah as well.
Hey Chris, it's Jack. I finally decided to leave a message. I know. Hopefully, I'm watching this as this is playing, but I mean, I just hope I'm watching it. I'm pretty sure I am. Probably leave a comment. But anyway, I've got a question for Noah and for Noah Cates. Yeah. Noah, what's the best part about playing for the Flyers organization and why? I know. Really original, a really original question, but that's it. Anyway, thank you and have a good show.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for calling in, dude. I will. I'll shoot a text to Noah after this, and I'll shoot you over his response. I'm sure it'll be a good one. But again, I thought overall for for CATES, I think kind of going back to him a little bit from off of Paul's comment here too. I'm curious to see how he plays next year. I think there's going to be a lot of different things in going into camp. He said he hasn't talked to Torts yet or anything like that. You know, he introduced himself, but that's pretty much it. But outside of that, I think Torts is really going to like him. So we'll see.
Hi, Chris. Regarding Ivan Provorov, do you think he will be happier than he was last season with Tony DeAngelo as his pairing partner? We certainly hope it works out. Thanks, bye.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, I mean, look, I think as for Provorov, I was just talking about this with Bill too. Like it's more of a, I guess you could say it's more of two kind of different personalities, right? And I don't think, you know, any of that. Like I don't look at it as attacking the guys personally or anything like that. That's not what I do. And that's why I kind of think Provorov was upset. Was a lot of people were coming out and saying this stuff about his girlfriend and how they were on social media and this whole thing. So, you know, I kind of looked at that as there was a difference in, I guess you could say a difference in opinion on it. I guess he was frustrated with how the year went because a lot was kind of thrown him being the number one defenseman and all that stuff. But as for Provorov, I mean, I'm not really. I think they're going to be fine. I do. I actually kind of feel better about it with Provorov with DeAngelo than I did with him and Ellis, because I was kind of like, all right, well, Ellis might be hurt, that whole kind of thing. Like those couple weeks there where Ellis is hurt, like, oh, this might not be good if Ellis is hurt, and then he didn't play. So I think I kind of feel better a little bit, because if you listen to DeAngelo on Nasty Knuckles, if anybody got a chance to listen to that, very good interview. And he's very excited to be a Flyer. There's a lot of things he wants to work on. He wants to work on getting better defensively. He's still young. You know, he'll be 27 going into the season. He's 26 now. So, you know, I think there's just something can work out there. And if it does, then great. So, you know, I kind of look at it that way. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Again, just wanted to say thank you for the past couple of weeks and the season in general, as we're pretty much getting towards the time where it's completely quiet in Hockey Town, and you know, as of right now, I think I was able to accomplish a good amount this year, and obviously I wasn't able to I'm not able to do any of that without you people watching. So I really do appreciate it. I've had a really fun time doing this show and doing the call-ins and all that stuff. It's been a lot of fun. But again, going into next season, there's going to be a lot of things going to be doing. A lot of question marks with this Flyers team. But again, I just want to say thank you for all the support, because again, it really does mean a lot. So thank you, everybody. Have a good summer. Again, enjoy it. Don't worry too much about the Flyers. We'll worry about that, and when September comes around, and I'll be back when probably around when main camp starts. Might have a couple interviews start this summer, but besides that, not too much for me. If you want to keep in touch, I'll be more on Instagram and Twitter and things like that. But yeah, again, thank you guys so much. Enjoy your summer, and I'll talk to you all again soon.